It ain't luck, it's destiny.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a new video. With the preseason being on the live servers for about a month now, I think, I thought it would be the perfect moment to upload a video and talk about some Twisted Fate related topics. So the topics we'll be discussing in the video today will be the new Rod of Ages, whether it's a good item or a bad item on Twisted Fate, because it's something a lot of people have been asking my opinion about, whether I buy it or not and when I buy it, so that's what we will be discussing today. Also, more in general, Twisted Fate's current state and where he kinda lies in the meta. So, is he viable? Is he not viable? Should you still pick him? Is he blind pickable? Do I pick him when I'm X rank or whatever? Because this is a question I get a lot as well. So we'll be discussing that as well today. Whether he needs a midscope update. This is something that was on Twitter, I think, a few days ago, where a guy from Riot talked about certain champions needing midscope updates. A lot of people replied. Some people suggested Twisted Fate, which I have my opinions about as well, so we'll talk about that. Then the current items and runes I'm using, which it hasn't really changed since the last video I made, but a few things did, so we'll cover that as well. And then at the end we'll also talk about like upcoming videos, because I have some plans, so we'll talk about that as well. So if you only want to know about one topic, feel free to go into the description. I'll have timestamps for everything, so you can just like select whatever you want to hear, and then you don't need to watch a 40-minute video if there's things that don't really interest you. So with that being said, we will get started. One more thing before we start though, guys, I'm giving away a League of Legends coaching session. The only thing you have to do to enter is to follow me on Instagram and like the giveaway post, which will all be linked in the description. So if this is something that interests you, if you want to get coaching by me, then this is your chance. The winner will be announced the 8th of January, so right when the season is about to start. So good luck to everyone who's gonna enter, and yeah, let's get started. Alrighty, so the first thing we'll be talking about today is the new Rod of Ages, right? Now a lot has been said about this item. Even before it actually got released on the live servers, there were already people saying that this was gonna bring back Twisted Fate to his former glory days, because back when this item was in the game, this used to be the item that Twisted Fate always used to rush, at least the AP version. And that was when Twisted Fate was a pretty decent champion, right? So a lot of people thought with this item coming back that it was also gonna bring back Twisted Fate, which I was kinda skeptical about. I think it was kinda wishful thinking, because Twisted Fate was already in such a bad spot that I didn't really believe that one item was gonna change the way the champion works, or whether he fits in the meta or not. So yeah, but the item has been out now for a month. It got I think 1 or 2 buffs, I'm not sure. It was quite expensive in the beginning. I think it was 3.2k gold, right? I mean, we can scroll down to the changes right here. Yeah, so they reduced the cost from like 3.2k to 2.8k, which was significant. I thought with this change that it might actually be a decent item. Back when it was 3.2k, I didn't even bother buying it because it was just way too expensive, especially for the stats you got. Like, if you have this amount of gold, you might as well buy something like Night Harvester or Ludens or Rocket Belt or any other AP mythic, right? Because this item, you're spending this amount of gold, but it still has to stack up, right? So you only get the full value after it's fully stacked, which is, it takes a while, right? It takes, I think, 10 minutes, right? You get 10 stacks, I'm pretty sure. So 1 stack for every minute, so you only get full value out of the item after 10 minutes, and yeah, that's quite a long time. So my current thoughts on the item, whether it's good or bad on TF. I think it has its place, but I don't think it's an item you buy every game, like you would do back in the day, right? I think this is an item you probably want to buy in let's say harder matchups against assassins, where the extra health is gonna come in really handy. So like against champions like Zed, for example, um, other good examples of champions you would wanna buy it against. Zed, Irelia, Kassadin. You could debate about this. I don't think I would buy it against Kassadin. I would probably stick to Night Harvester, but you could go Roa against Kassadin as well. Yone, you could go Roa against Yone, Yasuo, Pantheon, Fizz, Sylas even. You know, all assassins basically. Champions that burst you down in a few seconds. That's where I think Roa is probably a decent item, because you're gonna get that extra health. And then I would probably also combine that with the spellbook rune page, and I would probably go like Overgrowth and Bone Plating or Second Wind or something like that. So a bit more of a defense setup, where you'll just, with those two things, like Overgrowth plus Rod of Ages, you'll just be so tanky that normally, if the enemy assassin isn't too fat, he's never gonna get the chance to kill you, just because of the fact that you're so tanky. Unless you play like really dumb, obviously, but normally that they should not have the chance to kill you if you get that combination in terms of setup. Now they're even gonna buff the item again, so I'm not sure when this change is gonna get released, but yeah, these are the changes. So I'm not gonna read out everything, but they're just buffing the item overall. The base health is increased from 300 to 400, so that's quite significant as well, I would say. And then they're buffing the catalyst a bit. Is this gonna make the item OP? I don't think so. I think these are mostly minor changes. They're gonna make it a bit better, but it's not gonna be an OP item all of a sudden now, I think. And I think another thing you have to consider is that there's a lot of other champions in the game that utilize this item a lot better than Twisted Fate. So, and then I'm thinking about like champions like Kassadin, Ryze. Those are like two very good examples, I would say. Maybe even Cassio. So the problem you have with this item as well is that if these champions are getting really OP with these changes, then they might just nerf the item again, right? So, or they would have to nerf the champions. Maybe that would probably be a better option, but Riot does weird stuff now and then, so let's just say that these buffs, they're gonna benefit Twisted Fate if he buys Roa, but they're mostly gonna benefit other champions more, I would say. So, but yeah, the changes are nice, and they're obviously welcome. But all in all, like I said, I don't think the item is a must buy. I think there's other mythics right now as well that are a lot better in terms of carry potential. I think this is a very much a defense item. Twisted Fate already has quite low damage, so I'm not sold on it yet. I think it's a decent item, but I wouldn't buy it every game. Let's just say that. I think in matchups where you really need the extra health and the extra defense, this is a good item to get. But if it's more so a matchup that's manageable and you feel like you can maybe even carry the game by just raw damage, then I would just still probably suggest going Night Harvester. Or even Ludens or Rocket Belt, any of the other like damage mythic items. So yeah, that's it with the Rod of Ages. Alright, the next thing we'll be talking about is Twisted Fate's current state in the meta. So we'll be covering win rate and kind of the other champions that are meta right now, which kind of gatekeep Twisted Fate, I would say, from becoming viable again. So yeah, I mean, his win rate is still sitting at 47%. This is all ranks. I selected all ranks. Obviously, if you go to higher MMR, his win rate is gonna rise a bit. So in Diamond it's 48.5. If we go to Master Plus, it's gonna probably be even higher or similar. 50% in Master tier. And then, yeah, Grandmaster Challenger, it's probably gonna be the same, 51%. So the higher rank you are, the stronger the champion gets, essentially, which has always been the case. 58% in Challenger actually, but this is probably only like a few games, so this number is kind of skewed. You should not look at this. But yeah, this has always been the case for Twisted Fate, right? His win rate is gonna rise throughout the ranks. Reasoning, it's a macro-based champion that doesn't have strong laning. I would say in lower MMRs, most of the time the champions that do very well are champions with very simplistic kits that just deal an absurd amount of damage. You know, their kit is very clear. You deal your damage, you kill your opponent, and you win the game through that, which is not the case with Twisted Fate, right? He's in that regard, he's a bit more complicated. You have to have a lot of understanding in terms of macro, how the game will evolve, what your win conditions are. These are all things that with other champions you don't really have to think about that much. So that's why he'll always rise in win rate throughout the ranks, which is also the reason why it's really hard for Riot to balance him, right? Because the moment they give them even the slightest buff, he's probably gonna get, maybe not overpowered, but he's gonna become a pick or ban champion in higher MMR. And then he's still gonna be like 49-50% win rate in a lower MMR, right? So it's a really hard champion to balance. Very similar to, let's say, Ryze is a very good example as well of a champion that the moment Riot buffs him, he's pick or ban in pro play, but still like not that strong in lower MMR just because of how hard he is to pilot. Azir is another very good example. I think those are the three like main champions that are hard for Riot to balance between like solo queue, high MMR, lower MMR, and then professional play. So yeah, Twisted Fate joined the club, like I talked about in the video when he got nerfed. Yeah, you could put them next to Ryze and Azir. And I'm honestly not too sure what Riot could do to change this, just because of the way his kit works. So they would have to maybe change his kit, but I'm not the biggest fan of them doing that, because I think Twisted Fate has a very unique kit, which you probably shouldn't really touch too much. But yeah, so that's with the win rates. Then we'll cover like runes and stuff people are using at the moment. So actually quite funny, since I released that video, this page has been growing in popularity. As you can see, there's a lot more people using this page. Whether it's better or not, I mean, there's a lower win rate here, but like I said, if you filter on certain ranks, it's gonna be higher. Is Electrocute page bad? No, it isn't. I would say it's still a page you can use, but in my opinion, Comet page is better right now. Because it makes Twisted Fate's laning a bit more manageable. Another thing I've also been thinking about is that, like, if you run Electrocute, right, how many times do you realistically proc it in laning phase? I mean, it obviously depends how good your opponent is. If they give you the opportunity to proc it, then the rune is gonna be better than Comet because it deals more damage, obviously. But if you start getting to certain ranks where people know that if you hit them with 3 abilities or auto attacks or whatever, and then you proc Electrocute, they're not gonna give you that opportunity. So then I think Comet is a lot more of a easy rune to play with, because it's just, you know, 1 W or 1 Q hit, and then you also have the Scorch. So it makes certain lanes very much playable that would not be playable if you would be running Electrocute. So that's why I like this rune page more than Electrocute right now, I would say. Even with the new Rod of Ages, because I think people have been asking me like, okay, now that Rod of Ages is out, maybe what do you do if you buy Rod of Ages? Because then you're not gonna need the mana flow anymore, right? Because that was the main reason I started running this page before, because I started running Night Harvester, which is an item that doesn't give you any mana. So that's when I started using this page, because then I would have mana flow banned. So, but now with the Rod of Ages, do you still run this page? Yes, I do. But like I said, if I run Rod of Ages, I would probably combine it with a spellbook page, because I would, like I said, I would buy Rod of Ages if it's a harder matchup, or like Assassin or something, and then I would combine it with spellbook page. So then I'm not running Mana Flow Band. So I would say this is like the Night Harvester page, and then this is the... No, this is not the right. You don't go Time Warp Tonic anymore. But Spellbook plus Resolve with Rod of Ages. Let's just say that. But yeah, so that's it with Twisted Fate. His win rate isn't too high. Is he bad right now? Yeah, I mean he's kinda shit, right? If he has 47% win rate. The champion has definitely seen better days. Does that mean that you should not play him anymore? I don't think so. I think if you're competent at the champion, you can still make him work. But there's probably a lot of other champions right now that are better options, right? That have a more clear kit that you're probably gonna have more success with. Another reason why his win rate is probably not really rising is because of the current champions that are meta, right? There's a lot of champions in the game right now that are very strong, that are very hard matchups for Twisted Fate. So let's say Zed. Zed is really strong right now. They even nerfed him a bit, and they nerfed Hydra as well, but even after those nerfs I would still say Zed is obnoxious. This champion should never have a win rate above 50% because of how hard he is to play. Similar to Yasuo, these champions, they should always hover 48-49% win rate, in my honest opinion. If they're over 50%, that means that even people that have like 10 games on them are winning games, which is not how these champions should work. So yeah, but yeah, you have champions like Zed being meta, hard matchup for Twisted Fate, Kassadin, which I always used to ban Sylas, but recently I've honestly been banning Kassadin because in my opinion it's an even more obnoxious matchup to play, because you know Kassadin is not gonna kill you in laning phase normally if you play out the matchup properly, but Twisted Fate is not the right champion to punish Kassadin. Actually, I'm not even sure if there's champions out there that can really punish Kassadin at the moment, just because of how strong he is. So yeah, I've been banning Kassadin recently, because whenever they pick Kassadin into Twisted Fate, or whenever I'm playing Twisted Fate and they pick Kassadin, he just sits under tower for 15 minutes, and then the moment he has his R, he has his level 11 R, starts getting his items, the game is just over. You can't do anything against this champion. And that's when the game goes even, right? And then there's often games, let's say, where he starts roaming. Maybe your bot lane doesn't respect his roam, and he gets like a kill, 2 kills, 3 kills, and then the game is gonna be over even faster, right? So that's why I've been banning Kassadin recently. And then yeah, we've not even talked about Anivia and Victor. These two champions are... You can't lane against them if you play TF. If you play Twisted Fate against these champions, you need to go Spellbook and Teleport, because if you go Comet and Ignite page, you're gonna have to take so many bad bases and you're gonna miss so much XP. It's not even gonna be funny. So these two champions are also very strong still in the meta. Akshan, also really hard matchup. Aurelia, a really obnoxious matchup as well. And then there's still Sylas, who is, in my opinion, at the moment a little bit weaker than he was before, but that's, I would say, mostly because of these other champions just being very obnoxious. But Sylas is still a hard matchup for TF, I would say. And yeah, I mean, he can take his R, he then has a equal roaming potential as you do. So I think those are like the main champions that are... I mean, Katarina is still a thing, but I don't think Katarina is a very hard matchup. I think those are like the main OP champs right now that are picked very often and that are really hard matchups for Twisted Fate. So that's another reason why he's not rising in win rate. So yeah. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the midscope update thingy on Twitter. There's this guy from Riot who basically posted on Twitter asking which champion people wanted to see get a midscope update, like they did with Ari and Swain. And then there's been people responding with Twisted Fate, namely the SpiderX guy, who is a game designer and a Surrender at 20 moderator. Surrender at 20 is a League of Legends related website. People responding to him. I honestly, I'm not too sure on this. I feel like there's a lot of people who really want a midscope update for Twisted Fate, but I'm not too sure if this is the proper route to take with this champion. I think what he needs right now is just a small buff, or a few small buffs, to just get him back into the meta. Um, give him maybe more AP ratio, or give back his E attack speed, lower some of his cooldowns. Just giving him a small buff to start with, right? And then seeing where that takes us. Because I'm not sure if a midscope update is really gonna change anything, right? The thing you have to consider as well is that the problem Twisted Fate has right now is that, like I said earlier, he is really hard to balance for pro play, solo queue, and high MMR. So yeah, is a midscope update really gonna change anything? You know, people are talking about making it so his E is an active ability as well, but then you still have his R and his lane pushing. So is that gonna make it so it's gonna be more easy to balance for pro play and solo queue? I don't really think so. Um, so I'm not too sure where they should go with this, honestly. I really like Twisted Fate's kit. I think it's a very unique kit. The main issues he probably has are the fact that he has a point and click stun, right? That's just really obnoxious, especially for pro play, I would say. Combine that with rapid fire cannon and you're stunning people from 2 screens away. Then the fact that he has his global ability, which makes it for pro play then very easy to play split push compositions with like Camilla and stuff. So that's another the reason why this guy is quite strong. But then you would have to change his R and change his stun. And I'm not sure how they would do that. Like, do you make his stun an ability that he has to aim? Like, how on earth are you gonna do that, right? I'm not sure. But Riot could probably come up with something, right? But I think for now it's probably best if they just give him a small buff, see where he goes after that. Because I honestly also think that there's a lot of other champions out there that deserve a midscope update more than Twisted Fate does. Um, namely, yeah, like let's say Aurelion Sol. That's a good example. Maybe there's other champions as well that have such outdated kits. Like Nasus, I think, is a very good example of a champion that very similar to Udyr. You know, he's just left behind in the meta, right? His kit is so outdated, so I think a champion like that probably deserves it more than Twisted Fate does. So I would say for Twisted Fate right now, they should probably just give him a small buff, and then yeah, a mid-scope update maybe at one point. But I think right now it's not the best time. I think there's other champions that deserve it more than Twisted Fate does at the moment. Alrighty, so now going over the items I'm currently buying and the runes I'm currently using. Not a lot has changed compared to the last video I made about this. But yeah, I thought I still might cover because a few things have changed, and now with the Rod of Ages as well being added. So for starting items I still go Doran's Ring plus 2 potions. Don't go Corrupting Potion anymore. Don't go Time Warp Tonic. This rune is really bad. It's not worth taking anymore. You don't get the movement speed, so it's not worth taking it anymore. D Ring plus 2 potions is, I think, the most optimal start. You could maybe go Dark Shield plus Refillable or Dark Shield plus 3 potions if it's a really easy matchup. You could go Boots plus potions as well. But I think in general this is like the most standard start, and it's gonna do well in most. It's gonna make you do well in most games. Let's just say that. Then for your first base, I still go Ionians. I buy these boots fully on my first base, by the way. So if I have the gold for it. The main reason for this is because with the ability haste, right? So you're gonna have the ability haste for your first ultimate, which is really nice, and then you're also gonna have the summoner spell haste. This is really nice because you will have Cosmic Insight as well in your runes. So Cosmic Insight gives you 18 summoner spell haste, and this item gives you 12 Summoner Spell Haste, so that's 30 Summoner Spell Haste total. And this will lower your flash cooldown from 5 minutes to 3 minutes 50, I think. Yeah, 3 minutes 50. Which is significant, right? That's a minute and 10 seconds off of your flash, which, in my opinion, I mean, the game is balanced around flash. Flash is such a OP summoner spell, it can win you games if you use it properly, right? So having that on 3 minutes 50 instead of 5 minutes is quite significant. So that's why I get these boots as fast as I can on my first base. If I don't have the gold for it, then I'll probably get tier 1 boots, plus a dark seal, plus refillable, plus a control ward, or just one of these items. It really depends, right, what happened in the game, or what gold I am basing on. So yeah, refillable potion. Let's say you use both your potions, right, and you recall. Don't overspend on these potions again. Try to buy a refillable potion if you can, because this thing will refill when you get back to base, so you won't have to spend gold again and again and again and again on potions. So if you feel like you do really need a refillable, or you do really need potions, then get the refillable. So only buy these potions when you start the game. Or unless like you don't really have any other option, then I would maybe get one potion, but don't buy 2 or 3 or 4. That's just, you know, you're wasting gold at that point. So that's with the items I buy on my first base. Then going over the mythics. So Night Harvester, I would say, is still the best carry item on Twisted Fate, for AP Twisted Fate that is. So this is still the item I go to if I really feel like I can carry the game, if I feel like I don't need extra defense from Rod of Ages. Make sure you combine this item with Mana Flow Band, because if you don't do that, then you're probably gonna have mana issues, or you're gonna have to just use blue cards so much it's not gonna be fun anymore. So with this item, don't buy tier as well, because a lot of people think, okay, I'm gonna compensate my mana issues by buying a tier. I think that's stupid. You're wasting 400 gold. Just go Mana Flow Band, it's free, you know, get it in your runes, and the mana you get from that is gonna be enough to fix your mana issues basically. So Mana Flow Band plus Night Harvester, that's kind of the setup you wanna go towards. So this item is still very good, I would say. Probably the best item in terms of carry potential for Twisted Fate. Then Rod of Ages, we already talked about this earlier in the video. This item is really good in harder matchups. So Zed is a good example. I mean, any assassin really. Zed, Fizz, champions that burst you. That's where you want to get Rod of Ages probably, because it's gonna give you that extra health, that extra defense, and then you're gonna combine that with a spellbook rune page, which I will show after I've covered the items. Everfrost, I think this is still a fine mythic, but I'm not the biggest fan of it anymore, honestly. And are there even champions that still buy this item? I don't see it that often anymore, so it must be bad, honestly. Yeah, the main reason why they lowered the root, right? The root duration. I think that was really the killing blow for this item. In terms of viability, in terms of stats, it's still decent, right? It gives you ability haste, mana, health, ability power, everything you want on a champion like Twisted Fate. So I don't think it's necessarily bad right now, but I would say like I mostly just hover between these two items. Like, can I carry the game? Is it an easy matchup? Night Harvester. Is it a harder matchup? Rod of Ages. And then I don't really buy these items anymore. But yeah, Crown, you could still go this if you really want to, but I would say this is an item you want to get in against assassins as well, right? Champions that burst, but then I would get Rod of Ages instead. So these items, we can probably honestly remove them. If you still like them, then I'm not gonna stop you from buying them, but in my honest opinion, these are the best items to get at the moment on TF. A Rocket Belt. I think Night Harvester is just a better version of Rocket Belt. I think the dash is mostly a gimmick. This thing, like, back when the item got released, right, you had an absurd amount of movement speed if you would dash towards an opponent, but they nerfed this. So the movement speed you get now when you dash towards someone is really low. So I don't think it's worth getting this item anymore either. I would just, if you want to play more carry style, get Night Harvester or Ludens. I think then if you really want to carry, then I would say Ludens. But the reason why I don't like this item is because it doesn't give any HP. I would say for lower MMR, like you can really stomp games with this, but in the games I play, if I go this, then I'm gonna go 0-10 because I have no health, right? So, but yeah, if you're playing in silver or gold, you could go Ludens if you really want to. So that's it with the mythics. Then the core items after that, right? I think Lichbane is still the go-to after any mythic you get. So whether you buy Night Harvester or Roll of Ages or Ludens or Everfrost or Crown, it doesn't matter. I would always go Lichbane second. This item is really good on TF. You get movement speed, which is an OP stat on TF because you have to walk up to every opponent to land your gold card, right? Twisted Fate is very movement speed reliant. You're also gonna be able to roam a lot more easily, rotate, walk around the map, right? You're gonna be able to play your macro game a lot more easily with the movement speed you get from this item. It gives ability power and ability haste, also really nice. And then the Spellblade passive also goes hand in hand because Twisted Fate does tend to auto attack a lot between his combos, so this is a go-to item, like this is core. After you get your mythic, always get Lichbane. Then, third item, this kinda depends. I would say in 95% of your games you probably want to go Rapid Fire Cannon. Same reason for Lichbane, you get 7% movement speed. The attack speed is nice, but the main reason why you get it is because of the extended guard range, right? A lot of people get caught off guard with this. There's been people saying that because of the fact that you have Roll of Ages now, which makes you more tanky, means that you don't need to keep your distance because of, you can walk up further because you're more tanky, blah 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 blah. This is all stupid. I think the reason why you get this item is because the extra range allows you to just pick off opponents a lot more easily. It doesn't have to do anything with the amount of health or the tankiness you have. Like the picks you get with your gold card, those are the things that are gonna make you win team fights and win games at the end of the day, right? That's why you get this item. There's no other reason really. So yeah, like I said, I would say 95% of your games you probably want to get this item third. Then for the 5% where you don't get this item, those are probably gonna be games where, let's say, the enemy team is full AP. So they have an AP mid laner, they have an AP jungler, they have an AP top laner, and maybe like a brand support or something, right? An AP support. And they could have an ADC that's, AD damage, but in a game like that, I might consider going Banshees after my Lichbane, just because of the magic resist is, that's gonna be really high value, right? If the enemy has 4 AP champions. And then the same thing applies if they are full AD. So AD mid, AD jungle, AD top, AD support, and then ADC, whatever, right? 4 AD champions is like the thing I would look towards. Then I would probably go Zhonya after my Lichbane because of the fact that it gives armor. Or if they have like assassins where the stasis is gonna be really high value. So a Z, for example, you could say Fizz, but you could also go Banshees against Fizz. It kind of depends on enemy team composition. Other champions that want to jump onto you, like a Camille, Diana, champions that will just jump onto you, then the stasis is gonna be really high value. So then I might consider going Zhonya as well. Another thing to consider as well is that if they have, let's say, 4 champions that wanna jump onto you, then the extra range you get from Rapid Fire Cannon isn't really gonna do anything, because the way their comp operates is by engaging onto you. So then you could be like, okay, I'm just gonna go Zhonya, get the stasis, and make sure I can survive their engage rather than getting the Rapid Fire Cannon and getting the extra range, right? That doesn't make sense because they're gonna come towards you anyway. So those are, like I said, 5% of the games where that's gonna happen. But like most of the time, 90 to 95% of your games, you probably still wanna go Rapid Fire Cannon third. And then in terms of items to finish off your build late game, I think Rabadon is still the best scaling item to go. If the enemy team is stacking a lot of magic resist, you could go Void Staff. If they have a lot of healing in their kits, then you could go Morello. If you have a full Dark Seal, so if you have 10 Dark Seal stacks, always upgrade to Magi, I would say. Make sure you don't die if you get the Magi, but yeah, I think that's it with the items really. So there we go. Then for the runes, so I'm basically still running the same setup as I showed in my last video. I've been experimenting a bit with certain setups. For example, I tried Transcendence instead of Absolute Focus. This works, but the problem is that the AP cap, right, there's an AP cap you need to one-shot a backline at level 9. It's harder to reach if you don't have Absolute Focus. So that's why I'm still stick to Absolute Focus, because if I have this setup, I'll be able to one-shot a backline level 9 in 95% of my games. There's gonna be games where I'm so far behind. Maybe we did some stupid invade, I missed XP, I died in lane or something. I'm just really behind in the ability power curve. But that's like, yeah, like I said, actually probably even less. Let's say 2% of my games I play. But in all the other games, you're gonna be able to just stay on the ability power curve, and you're gonna be able to one-shot the backline level 9, which is a really nice thing to have on Twisted Fate, just like the ability to push waves really easily. So that's why I prefer Absolute Focus over Transcendence. Also, later on in the game, this is gonna give you that extra burst. So yeah. Then down here, right, because I have Scorch, I think Gathering Storm is probably overall better. But the problem is that you have to look at how Twisted Fate operates, right? Twisted Fate likes to win his games in the first 10-20 minutes. Twisted Fate is not a champion that scales very well. So if the game is going over 30 or over 40 minutes, there's probably something you did wrong, right? You want to win the game before that, which is also why most of my games will be decided before 30 minutes. I'll win or lose the game before 30 minutes. My games rarely go over that. So that's the reason why I'm mostly going Scorch, because then I'm gonna have that extra lane power, right? Now, let's say you're playing a lane where you're just gonna lose the lane no matter what. Let's say you play against an Anivia or a Victor. Any champion that just has such lane power that even if you go Scorch, you're not gonna be able to compete with them. Then I would say Gathering Storm is better. Because if you're not poking them out of lane, or if you're not trading even, then it doesn't even make sense to go Scorch, right? Then I would still go Gathering Storm. Water Walking, I think this rune is a bit gimmicky, because you only really get the effect when you're walking in the river. So I would say Gathering Storm is better. It's, you know, overall you're probably gonna get more use out of this. But if you're really the type of player to, let's say you buy Swifties every game and you just roam a lot, then you could go Water Walking and you're probably gonna benefit from that. But overall I would say Gathering Storm and Scorch are probably your go-to options. And then other than that, this hasn't changed, and I probably wouldn't change anything about this either. So like I said, this page is mostly still the same. Then for spellbook page, right? So if you go Night Harvester as an item, I would say this is the rune page you wanna go if you wanna go spellbook. So the only thing I would change is magical footwear or perfect timing. This kinda depends. If you're playing against a Victor or an Nivea, where you feel like the laning phase is just gonna be mainly you trying to farm up and then teleporting back to lane, where it doesn't really matter if you get that those early boots, then you could be like, okay, I'm gonna go magical footwear, then I have my boots for free. That's something you could do. I most of the time still prefer to go stopwatch though, just because of the fact that I value tier 2 boots so highly. I really like getting them early, so I still probably would prefer perfect timing. So yeah, this is the setup I would run if I would go Night Harvester with Spellbook page. Now, if you go Rod of Ages, right, then it doesn't really make sense to go Mana Flow, because you have mana from your item, right? So then if you want to go Sorcery secondary, I would probably go Absolute Focus plus Gathering Storm. Yeah. So this is the page I would run if I had Rod of Ages secondary. If you go Rod of Ages, or if you run Rod of Ages, if you run Rod of Ages into an assassin, let's say Zed or Fizz, then you could run Bone Plating plus Overgrowth plus Stopwatch, which is really nice against champions like Zed or Fizz. So this is the setup I would run then. These things don't go Demolish. I don't think it's that good on TF, especially in matchups like that. Normally, if they play their champion right, they're not gonna allow you to just hit towers. So I would go Bone Plating plus Overgrowth. If it's a champion that's not as burst combo reliant, but more so like poke heavy, then you could go Second Wind plus Overgrowth. So to make your laning phase a bit more easy to manage, right? So Second Wind plus Overgrowth. So that's it with the runes, I think. Electrocute page, I still have this, but I don't run it anymore, to be honest, because of the reasons I mentioned before. Like, you really have to consider how many times you proc this in lane. Once or twice, you know. Comet is a lot more easily to proc in laning phase, I would say. You do have more burst on your R with this page, because raw damage wise Electrocute is better than Comet, obviously, so you're gonna have a stronger R. But other than that, another problem I have with this rune page is that they nerfed the healing, right? They nerfed Taste of Blood, so this is not really doing anything anymore. It's doing something, but not as much healing as it, as it did before, right? Eyeball collection, yeah. Sometimes you'll have games where you just don't get any kills or assists. It happens. And then if you have Comet page, you're still gonna have the AP because you're not relying on stacking any rune up from kills or assists, which you do with this page, right? With this rune, you need kills or assists to get the ability power. And then yeah, Ultimate Hunter. I guess this is nice, but that's probably the only thing. And then this is standard, right? So that's the main reason why I'm running Comet page right now over Electrocute. So yeah, that's it with the runes. Alrighty, so to end the video, I want to talk about some upcoming videos or videos I have planned to upload in the coming months. Namely, I'm gonna start working on my Twisted Fate guide in video format. This is something I've had on my mind for a while now, but I've never really got to it. I always thought, right, I need the meta to be a certain way, I need Twisted Fate to be viable, because otherwise why would you make a guide on a champion that basically doesn't get played? Or it would be like, the runes are changing, or I'm scared that if I make the guide that a month later there's suddenly a new setup and then I made the video for nothing. But I'll try to mainly focus on like how to play the champion, and I'll show the runes and the items, but that's not going to be the main part of the video. So that's what I have planned for the coming months. So you can expect that like around the start of the new season. I think that's when I'm gonna release the guide. And then I'm gonna try to also start uploading more gameplay commentaries as well again when the new season starts. And then I'll also have another type of video series planned where I cover Twisted Fate concepts or Twisted Fate related concepts. So things I've covered in my written guide on MobaFire, but then I'll go more in depth into one concept and in one video. So that's something I have planned as well. And then I'll still keep making the high elo Twisted Fate reviews, because those are the videos that are doing the best on my channel, something that people seem to enjoy the most, so I'll still keep doing those. It's just a bit sad that Dopa is not playing the game anymore, so we'll have to do with other players. But there's still other guys out there, right? We still have Faker, we still have Chovy, there's this guy on the Chinese server as well. There's plenty of other Twisted Fate players out there that I could review, and yeah, so that's still gonna be on the channel. So with that being said, I'm gonna end the video right here. I wanna thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments, and I'll try to respond to them. And yeah, like I said with the giveaway, if you guys wanna enter, everything is in the description. Follow me on Instagram, like the post, and then you'll be entered, and then maybe you'll win, right? Who knows? So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.